Hey, this is Antonio. Welcome back to my channel, and we're going to have some fighting words. But before we go any further, I need for you to like this video and also subscribe to the channel. So I want to just talk about the little scuffle that happened with Canelo Alvarez and Caleb Plant. We all seen it, and number one, I was kind of surprised. I'm jumping right into it. Yeah, that's right. So number one, I was kind of surprised that how strong Canelo was. Caleb Plant's a pretty big boy. He's a big boy. And when Canelo pushed him, the thing with me is I always like to look at the physicality of two guys, especially somebody who's going up in weight. And when Canelo pushed him, just the impact of the push, how far Caleb went, it kind of says something. Like he's not just going up in weight, but his power, his force is transferring well. And Caleb darn near flew across the stage. So let's just jump into, what happened. Caleb swings, classic Canelo. He ducked it. He returned fire. Canelo's a counterpuncher. You don't want to throw first with Canelo. So I'm going to break down the psychology of this. So let me just start with this. Okay. First, I didn't too much care for how Caleb handled it. Like, yes, Canelo pushed you, but why did he walk into it like he wasn't going to do anything? It was kind of shady. If you would, so basically when he threw I believe it was a right hand. When he threw the right hand, if he would have hit Canelo, it wouldn't have meant anything because you disguised it like, you're just walking back to do the face off. And then you miss, and Canelo, listen, he did what he's supposed to do. He does what he did, he countered it. He countered it beautifully, as a matter of fact. Rolled with it, hit him, and then followed up. Like, classic Canelo. So the only thing that I'm saying for Caleb is, you need to set things up. So I've always been a fan of Caleb Plant's movement. That was always my thing when it came to him fighting Canelo. If you notice, and if you've been tracking with the videos, that was my thing with Billy Joe Saunders fighting Canelo. You have great footwork. Utilize that. And maybe you can find success through that. Sometimes when people are angry, they kind of ditch what they know and they just go into something else because they're angry. They don't know how to stay composed. A great example of someone who knows how to stay composed is Floyd Mayweather. He knows how to stay composed. He's not the type of guy you're going to rattle him and he's going to be like, I'm going to get in there, I'm going to knock his head off. He's not that guy. He's very composed, very, very, very composed. I remember after this fight with Conor McGregor, and Conor was blown away by his composure, blown away at his ability to say, all right, you got me with that. Okay, I'm still here. So, what's next? Very, very composed. Another one, Earl Spence, very composed, does not let his emotions or anything like that dictate what he's going to do next in the fight, or dictate if he will stick with the game plan or ditch the whole plan in all just because, he's mad in the moment because something, transpired or whatever. He's not like that. Very composed, very, very composed. And, Canelo showed his composure. Yeah, he's rowdy. Canelo is a rowdy dude. Like, money ain't going to change that. You are or you are. There's a reason why he's a redhead, because he's rowdy. He's got a hot head. But that's what we like about him. That's what we like about him. But Caleb, so what I initially thought was going to be your bread and butter, and I still believe it is your only real bread and butter, a jab and footwork. We already know Canelo's knees are not where they need to be at his age. He's not going to be able to keep up with Caleb if Caleb is on the move. And if Caleb is constantly popping out that jab, it's not going to be easy for Canelo. It's not going to be easy for Canelo to keep up with Caleb or cut off the ring. Now, mind you, Caleb is a lot bigger than Canelo. So you got to think, well, what if he comes off the ring? Could Caleb fight his way out? That's the question in this fight. It's not a question of does Canelo have enough punching power. It's not a question of, does Caleb have a sweet enough style to give Canelo problems. What I want to know is, can Caleb Plant fight his way out of a corner? Can he fight his way off the ropes? Once we're in the middle rounds or the deep end of the pond, will his legs still be there? And if not, can he fight his way off those ropes? Can he fight his way out of the corner? Because we all know how Caleb Plant, fights. He's very elusive. He's very, a lot of tricks. I have yet to really see him show up in like return fire. I don't know what he can do when his back's against the wall. And I mean like he's really pressured. I haven't really seen him pressured, to be honest. I haven't seen him to the point where he's like, I got to dig deep and I'm losing the fight. That's basically what I'm getting at. When you're deep in the rounds and either your legs are tired or your legs are gone or you just want to take a breather from all the movement, how are you going to fare then? That's what I'm interested in seeing. How is he going to fare when he's on those ropes in the latter ends of the rounds? I think this fight is taking a lot of turns. One thing I've noticed over the past maybe like week or more like 2 weeks, watching how Andre Ward has attached himself to this fight by, mentoring Caleb Plant. Now, you can look at this a few ways. The only way, and if I'm wrong, I apologize, but the only way I can see this is, so Timothy Bradley has been picking at Canelo for a while, a few months actually, saying little things like, oh, you wouldn't fight Andre Ward, you don't want to see Andre Ward. He keeps bringing up Andre Ward. Andre Ward, he has retired, true, but he has a foot still in the ring. I don't care what anybody says, Andre Ward still has a foot in the ring. Yeah, he's got a foot in the analyst booth. He's got a foot in ESPN or whoever else he's doing, analytical work for. But he still has a foot in the ring. Andre Ward is in great shape. He stays in shape. Now, I know what you're saying. Well, he's a retired professional athlete. Yeah, correct. But that's the fight that he wanted. It's the fight that he mentioned. It's the fight that Timothy Bradley keeps on mentioning. And Virgil Hill keeps on mentioning as well. Like just trying to get it from every angle. Like, oh, I bet he wouldn't do that with Andre Ward. And when I see Andre Ward attach himself to Caleb Plant, I'm like, well, what's the angle here? And the only thing that I can conclude would be, I don't like to say what's going to happen before it happens, but let's just say, and I don't think this is a stretch, Canelo beats Caleb Plant. Well, then Andre Ward is already connected to Caleb Plant. And the story around it would be like, well, it's still my camp against your camp. Keep in mind, Caleb Plant wasted no time making this personal. I mean, the whole thing with Oscar Valdez and popping positive for steroids, and he flat out called Canelo a cheat. He's like, listen, you're a cheater. You got suspended. You had to pay a fine. Officials found you guilty, in which is true. You're a cheater. That's where he was going at. And you can tell nobody likes to be called a cheat. Like, I don't care. Nobody likes to be called a cheat. And that whole camp right now, that whole gym, I'll say, is getting a lot of fire because of the Oscar Valdez, situation. You look at Ryan Garcia, you look at all these guys who are in the camp, or in the gym. And it's just like, they're getting a lot of heat. They're getting a whole lot of heat because of that. And it doesn't help if you've already popped positive for steroids in the past. Canelo Alvarez. So, is it personal? I think Caleb is desperately trying to make it personal. Now, I don't know if he thinks maybe this will get Canelo off his game. I don't think Canelo operates like that. I think the madder Canelo Alvarez gets, the better he's going to be on the night of. So I don't believe it's going to work in the favor of Caleb Plant to piss off Canelo. But it's going to work in my plans. You know, as a consumer, I want to see a pissed off Canelo Alvarez fighting. So it's great for me. But I don't think it's too great for Caleb Plant. Now back to the Andre Ward attachment. Caleb Plant loses. Who knows? And I'm just throwing out, possible scenarios. After the fight, Andre Ward is like, "This isn't over, Canelo. You and I, we got unfinished business." Canelo's like, "We can do it." I could see that happening. And quite frankly, I think Canelo Alvarez would actually get up in the morning to fight Andre Ward. Look at all the accolades that Andre Ward has. Why would you want to fight him? Like if you just want to stick names on a board, okay, if you want to make the argument like, hey, Floyd's the best, but I am clearly number 2 in the running, you put Andre Ward's name on your belt. You get that notch. You get that notch. Because every time it's mentioned who's the greatest of this era, it's Floyd Mayweather and it's Andre Ward. Now, you get Andre Ward's name on your belt. I'm going to say it. Pacquiao fans might be a little mad at me, but I don't think even Pacquiao could argue with Canelo's resume if he has Andre Ward's name on his resume. I think it would be pretty big. It would be a super fight. It would definitely be a super fight. Who do you think he's going to get more money for? You think Canelo's going to get more money for one of the Charlo brothers? I don't know. In Texas, maybe, but I doubt it. A retired legend coming back to fight boxing's face, pound for pound, number 1 guy in the world, Canelo Alvarez. I think that sells. I definitely think that sells. And I think this has been something that has been brewing for about a year now. I definitely think this sells, actually. And I would definitely like to see it. Yeah, you're going to say, well, Andre Ward, he hasn't fought in I don't know how long. That's right, but the man is in shape. He's clearly been sparring. He's clearly running. He's clearly doing all the things that he needs to do. And he surrounds himself with fighters. He's constantly in the gym. You think he's going to get fat and out of shape? No, he's going to stay in shape. He's going to stay in shape. And I think there's a reason. I think that reason is, a possible Canelo Alvarez versus Andre Ward super fight. That's what I think. That's what I think. I mean, are we going to watch Triple G versus Canelo again? I will watch it, but do people want to see that again? That's the question. Do I want to see Canelo Alvarez fight Errol Spence? Definitely not over Andre Ward. I don't even want to see Canelo Alvarez fight Errol Spence over either one of the Charlo twins. I don't want to see Canelo Alvarez versus Errol Spence. I want to see Demetrius Andrade versus Canelo Alvarez. But they don't hold as much weight as Andre Ward. They definitely don't have the accolades as Andre Ward. Canelo has all the money in the world. At this point, it's not about money. It's about legacy. That's what it's about to him. It is not about money. I don't buy that for 1 minute. It's not about money. So, and if it was, I think mission accomplished for Canelo Alvarez. That dude is raking in money. It's not about money. It's about, I did something none of you other guys did. That's where I'm at. But I got to tell you, I'd love to see it. I'd love to watch it. I would love to see Canelo Alvarez versus Andre Ward. I'm sorry that I took this video away from Caleb Plant because he hasn't gotten beat yet, and I'm already jumping the gun and talking maybe 6 months down the road, possibly a year down the road. But I just find it kind of weird that Andre Ward has gotten out of the analyst booth and has jumped in the corner of Caleb Plant, of all people. I find it a little interesting and intriguing. But I want to know what you think. I need you to drop some comments down below. And as always, please like and subscribe.